guys, today is Bible study day, and last week I had said that I was going to have the Bible study at 5 p.m. Central and then another video at 6 p.m. Central, and I did not remember that I was supposed to record an extra video, so that'll have to start next week because I'm planning on today recording an extra video because on Mondays it's whenever I record the Bible study, and then I don't usually record anything else. So what I'm going to do today is record the Bible study and then record other things going on. So in a way it's like a break day of recording, and I know y'all can hear the washer and dryer, but I got a lot of things going on today. I've got to take the truck back to Safe Light because there is a leak. I think I talked about that on a video, I'm not sure, but I got a lot of things going on, and so I try not to record while the washer's going, but I just don't have a choice today. So anyway, starting July, it will be a Bible study by itself without another video, with another video later on that day, but today is just the Bible study by itself. Okay, so I hope that's okay. I'm pretty sure it will be. You guys are pretty forgiving and love me in spite of my flaws, which is what we're supposed to do. Alright, so in a way, I feel like I might have bit off a little bit more than I can chew for this week's study because I can't cram Esther into 1 week. Not really fully tell you her story. So I'm just going to do it anyway. I'm going to do my best and give you a brief overview of her, the reason why I think she is in the Bible, the reason why I think she's very important to the Jewish people, and the reason why I think that God said, hey, her story needs to be in there. Others need to know her story. It doesn't need to be just a story for now, it needs to be forever. So that is how I feel we get certain stories in the Bible, because you might find that someone's story seems insignificant, but their story that is in the Bible can teach you a wonderful lesson, and I believe Esther is one of those ladies. I feel like my eyes are really puffy. It is earlier in the morning because, like I said, I got a lot to do today. Not complaining. It's okay to be busy. But I usually try to wait for my face to depufferize before I get on camera most of the time. But I fail that sometimes. So anyway, we're going to talk about Esther. And Esther was a young lady who really... she was just a simple girl, is the way I see her. She wasn't someone who stood out in the crowd. She wasn't someone who was loud. She wasn't someone who you would think is going to change the direction for a people. Now I'm getting a little bit ahead, but you know, if you have heard the story of Esther, you know she changed the story for her people. Let's just go ahead there. I do feel like there are some things in Esther that we could do other studies on, because there are different feasts during the time that her story is going on, but that'd be for a whole different situation. So I want to go to Esther 2:15. Well, I'm going to read a little bit in, let's see, where was it? A little bit of how Esther became queen. A little bit of why the king needed another wife. Queen Vashti was King, I hate to say his name because I know I butcher it. Ahasuerus. It's Ahasuerus. It's such a big word that is, not something we say now. But anyway, he was the king, and he had, in the Bible, in verse 1, it says, "Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus," this was the Ahasuerus who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. In those days when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of the kingdom which was in Shushan, the citadel, that in the 3rd year of his reign he made the feast for all of his officials and servants, the powers of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes of the provinces before him, when he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the splendor of his excellent majesty for many days, 180 days in all. And when these days were completed, the king made a feast lasting 7 days for all the people who were present in Shushan, the citadel, from great to small, in the court of the garden of the king's palace. There were white and blue linen curtains fastened with cords, and fine linen and purple on silver rods and marble pillars. And the couches were of gold and silver and on mosaic pavement of alabaster, turquoise and white and black marble. Y'all know colors have a lot to do. They have meaning in the Bible. And they served drinks in golden vessels, so do, like, different metals. They have different metals, different woods, different colors, different stones. They mean different things in the Bible. Anyway, they served drinks in golden vessels, each vessel being different from the other, with royal wine in abundance, according to the generosity of the king. In accordance with the law, the drinking was not compulsory, so you didn't have to drink if you don't want to. For so the king had ordered all the officers of his household that they should do according to each man's pleasure. Queen Vashti also made a feast for the women in the royal palace, which belonged to King Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcas, 7 eunuchs who served in the presence of King Ahasuerus, to bring Queen Vashti before the king wearing her royal crown, in order to show her beauty to the people and the officials. She was beautiful to behold. But Queen Vashti refused to come to the king's command brought by his eunuchs. Therefore the king was furious, and his anger burned in him. Then the king said to the wise men who understood the times, for this was the king's manner toward all who knew law and justice, those closest to him being Karshena, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marcina, and Memucan. I can't. These names, please forgive me. The 7 princes of Persia and Media, who had access to the king's presence and who ranked highest in the kingdom. What shall we do with Queen Vashti according to the law, because she did not obey the command of King Ahasuerus, brought to her by the eunuchs? So he's asking his wise men, what shall we do according to the law? What is the manner in which we shall deal with her? And Memucan answered before the king and princes, Queen Vashti has not only wronged the king, but also all the princes and all the people who are in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For the queen's behavior will become known to all women, so that they will despise their husbands in their eyes when they report. King Ahasuerus commanded Queen Vashti to be brought before him, but she did not come. This very day the noble ladies of Persia and Media will say to all the king's officials that they have heard of the behavior of the queen. Thus there will be excessive contempt and wrath. So they're saying, if you allow her to get away with this, all the other women are going to try to get away with this with their husbands. They're not going to come whenever they're asked. They're not going to do what they're asked to do. If it pleases the king, let the royal decree go out from him, and let it be recorded in the laws of the Persians and the Medes, so that it will not be altered, that Vashti shall come no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal position to another who is better than she. So they're saying, throw her out. She's not a queen anymore. Get rid of her. Divorce her. And find you a new queen. That's what they're telling him. When the king's decree, which we will make, is proclaimed throughout all of his empire, for it is great, all wives will honor their husbands, both great and small. And the reply pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. Then he sent letters to the king's provinces, to each province in his own script, and to every people in their own language, that each man should be master of his own house and speak in the language of his own people. So he got rid of her. She's gone. She's done. She's out of there. So that's why that the king needed a new queen, because his first queen, which I don't know if it's actually his first, but his wife did not do what she was supposed to do, and they did not want for it to be known that the king was not being obeyed, because above all else the king was supposed to be obeyed. And I know that some people might look at this and say, oh, well, that's male chauvinism, that's this, that, and the other thing. I don't think it is, because I believe that, let's just say Jeff asked me to come help him with something or come to meet someone. It is my place to do it, because I'm supposed to be there for my husband when he needs me. And I know I might see this in a different way than some people, but when a queen is disobedient to a king who is supposed to be the highest rule in the land, it's going to look bad for the king. It's going to make it look like anybody can just run over him, that he can't control his wife. How's he going to control the kingdom? And I say control loosely, because I'm not saying that he was trying to control her as in make her do whatever he wanted, but it's a respect thing, which we will find later on that he wasn't doing it out of some kind of disrespect. He wasn't trying to hurt someone. It was just what he needed to do to have his kingdom set up in a way that it needed to be. And we'll find out that this king was not a completely terrible person in a little bit. So anyway, I'm not going to read the whole of everything anymore. I don't think. I don't even know why I read all of that. It just felt like I needed to. And that's what I do. Sometimes I start reading something and I just keep reading it, because that's just what I feel like I need to do. I have some notes here, so bear with me, because I am still in sleepy time and coffee does nothing for me. But I'm still drinking it. Okay, so Esther 2:15. I'm going to kind of skip around a little bit now. Alright, Esther 2:15 says, where's it at? Now when the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his daughter to go into the king, she requested nothing that Haggai, the king's eunuch, the custodian of the women, advised, and Esther obtained favor in the sight of all who saw her. So, I guess I probably need to go back a little bit. So the king had sent out that he wanted another wife. So each one of the women, let's go over here. Okay, I probably do need to go back. I don't know why I went on to that. Okay, Esther was a Jew. Mordecai is a Jew. And Ahasuerus, I'm going to have to keep saying that, the king was not. And it wasn't. Let me just go on and read some more of her story. I don't really know how to tell the story without reading the story, because I feel like I'm going to miss things or get ahead of myself, and I might have notes, but I feel like they're not helping me today. So Esther becomes queen. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus subsided, he waited till he wasn't mad anymore. I'm not going to read it all, but I'm going to read some. He remembered Vashti, what she had done, and what had been decreed against her. Then the king's servants who attended him said, "Let beautiful young virgins be sought for the king." So they're looking for young virgins. "And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather all the beautiful young virgins to Shushan, the citadel, into the women's quarters, under the custody of Haggai, the king's eunuch, custodian of the women, and let beauty preparations be given to them. Then let the young women who pleases the king be queen, woman who pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti." So they're going to go look for young virgins. The eunuch is going to be taking care of them and getting them prepared for the king to choose one for his wife. That's what's happening. Okay, so I'm going to go on down here where that I'm talking about Mordecai. In verse 5 in chapter 2. "In Shushan, the citadel, there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei." I may not be saying these names right. I'm not going to say that anymore. Y'all know that. "The son of Kish, a Benjamite. Kish had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captives who had been captured with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And Mordecai had brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was lovely and beautiful. When her father and mother died, Mordecai took her in as his own daughter. So it was, when the king's command and decree were heard, and when many young women were gathered at Shushan, the citadel, under the custody of Haggai — I should just call him Haggai because it sounds better — that Esther also was taken to the king's palace into the care of Haggai, the custodian of women. Now the young woman pleased him, and she obtained his favor. So he readily gave beauty preparations to her besides her allowance." So he was giving her extra. She was probably something about her demeanor and character was different. Probably she impressed him in some way, so he gave her special treatment. Then 7 choice maidens were provided for her from the king's palace, and he moved her and her maidservants to the best place in the house of the women. So Esther was not only like just there in the king's palace waiting to see if she was going to be the one chosen, but she was brought up to a higher place. Esther had not revealed her people or family for Mordecai had charged her not to reveal it. Mordecai said, "Don't let them know where you're from. Don't let them know you're a Jew." And every day Mordecai paced in front of the court of the women's quarters to learn of Esther's welfare and what was happening to her. So he was trying to find out, is she okay? Did they find out if she's a Jew? Is she okay? Is she safe? Is she happy? Is she healthy? Those kinds of things. You know what a parent would probably do, but that's my interpretation. Anyway, each young woman's turn came to go into the king Ahasuerus after she had completed 12 months preparation. So she had to be there a full year. A year. According to the regulations of women, for thus were the days of the preparation apportioned: 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with perfumes and the preparations for beautifying women. Thus prepared, each young woman went to the king, and she was given whatever she desired to take with her from the woman's quarters to the king's palace. So she's leaving the woman's quarters to the king's palace, and she can take whatever she wants that is there. Okay. In the evening she went, and in the morning she returned to the second house of the women, to the custody of Shashgaz, the king's eunuch who kept concubines. So if she was refused as a wife, I guess she went to the concubines. I could be wrong about that. She would not go into the king again unless the king delighted in her and called for her by name. Now when the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his daughter, to go into the king, she requested nothing but what Haggai, the king's eunuch, the custodian of the women, advised. So she only took what he said. She only took what Haggai had said. Take this. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all who saw her. So Esther was taken to King Ahasuerus into his royal palace in the 10th month. So she went in early, which is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. Now, I could be wrong. It may be that it just took 12 months to do all of this. But from what I understand, it's 6 months of oil of myrrh and 6 months of perfume, so it had to be 12 months. Anyway, sorry. The king loved Esther more than all the other women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins. So he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Then the king made a great feast, the feast of Esther, for all his officials and servants, and he proclaimed a holiday in provinces and gave gifts according to the generosity of the king. So, because of her mannerism, her beauty, her whatever about her, maybe because she wasn't selfish and taking a bunch of things that she didn't need, maybe because she listened to the king's man, the king's, the one that he had appointed to keep the ladies. Maybe that's the reason why she obtained favor. But either way, she became queen. So then, later on, Mordecai, which is her uncle, let's see. She doesn't tell who her family is or anything like that. And Mordecai he sits at the king's gate. I'm gonna go try to go faster. Let's see. And on down it says, in those days, while Mordecai sat within the king's gate, two of the king's eunuchs, Bigthan and Teresh, doorkeepers, became furious and sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. So they were trying to kill the king or hurt the king. This is something that that Mordecai discovered because he was there. So the matter became known to Mordecai, who told Queen Esther, and Esther informed the king in Mordecai's name. And when an inquiry was made into the matter, it was confirmed, and both were hanged on the gallows, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles in the presence of the king. So Mordecai saves the king from harm. So Mordecai is bringing his name up. Now, I don't think this was a plot. I don't think they were meaning to do this. I don't think that they even had a clue what was happening. It was just where God was putting them. Alright, and then later on, there's Haman. Haman is a terrible, terrible man. He hates the Jews. He despises the Jews. There's really no reason to despise a people. There's no reason to despise a certain race. But Haman was one of those who did. And Haman was one who had power with the king. He had some, he could talk to the king. And I'm going to go on through this real quick. But he went on and he had a plot to get rid of all the Jews. He wanted to get rid of every single one of them. And so then Mordecai goes to Esther. Okay, Mordecai's in mourning. He's upset. He's I don't want to skip, but I have to skip because I don't want this to be 3 hours long. Let's see. Okay, my camera's probably fixing to quit too because of the time. So actually, let me go ahead and stop it and I'll start it back. Okay, so here's the situation. The book of Esther has so much packed in there, and I wanted to do it, but I don't think I'm going to do it justice. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a quick overview of it today, and then maybe starting next week, we'll do just a few verses each week until we get through with it. There's only 10 chapters in this book. So it'll be like 3 weeks. So 4 weeks total. We'll do Esther, or maybe, I don't know, maybe less than that. Maybe we'll do it in 2 weeks. But there's just so much. And what I really want to do is read y'all the story from the Bible and talk about it. Because I don't know why this story is so much, other than the little guy can actually save the world, in a sense. That's not exactly what happened, but still. Little people that don't really seem very big and bright and bold can do a lot. And I don't know, it's just so much, and y'all may not get that from Esther's story, but I do. So let's just go over a quick overview, and then we'll go on. So Haman, let's talk about Haman. He's a terrible man. He wants to kill all the Jews. He is an absolute ogre, a terrible, terrible person. And he has come up with a plan to get rid of them. And he has whispered in the king's ear, and he has come up with a plot of how to do it. Well, the king doesn't know his wife is a Jew. He does not know that his beautiful Esther, who he loves now, I'm pretty sure he loves her. She was the most beautiful out of all the women, and he wanted her. So he does not know that she is a Jew. He does not know he is decreeing a death sentence on his beautiful bride. I mean, he just lost one wife because of her inconsiderate rudeness. I really don't know what else to say. But anyway, Mordecai, her uncle, he finds out, and he is distraught. He puts on sackcloth and ashes, and he goes, and if you have on sackcloth and ashes, you cannot go into the king's gate. Mordecai was at the king's gate. I don't even know if the people even recognized Mordecai, because most likely whenever he was normally there, he was in nice clothes. He was not in sackcloth and ashes. We know that for a fact, that he was not in sackcloth and ashes. But whenever you're in mourning, that is what happened back then. Sackcloth and ashes. You'd rip your clothes, you'd tear your clothes, and you'd put on sackcloth and ashes. Well, he went and he mourned. He cried out, and he was upset. And you know how whenever you're mourning, sometimes, I remember whenever my daddy died, it was something came out of me. It was like this yell, this cry that I have never had again, other than one more time. And that was when Aben passed away. There's 2 times in my life that I had that whenever I mourned for someone. When someone died. That's what I should have said. I've never had that happen when someone died, other than those 2 times. And then that happened again to me when Selena left. But there was this deep pain, and it just came out of me. It was not something I had planned. It just was there, and it wasn't like I was screaming and yelling and stuff like that. It was just like this sob, this pain just that was flooding my body came out vocally, if that makes sense. So Mordecai was there at the city gate, and he was mourning. So then it goes on in verse 4:4, says, so Esther's maids and eunuchs came and told her, and the queen was deeply distressed. Then she sent garments of clothe Mordecai and take his sackcloth away from him, but he would not accept them. Then Esther called Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs, whom he had appointed to attend her, and she gave him a command concerning Mordecai to learn what and why this was. So Hathach went in to Mordecai in the city square that was in front of the king's gate, and Mordecai told him what that had happened, and the sum of money that Haman had promised to pay into the king's treasuries to destroy the Jews. So Haman is promising to give the king money to kill the Jews. So he also gives a copy of the written decree for their destruction, which was given at Shushan, that he might show it to Esther and explain it to her. So Mordecai has gotten word to Esther, okay? And then Esther, she gets bold. She does things she's not supposed to do. But she goes and she has a banquet. And she puts on her royal robes, and she stands at the inner court of the king's palace across from the king's house, while the king sat in his royal throne in the royal house facing the entrance of the house. So it was when the king saw Queen Esther standing, this is verse 5, chapter 5, I'm reading from there. Queen Esther standing in the court, that she found favor in his sight, and the king held out to Esther his golden scepter that was in his hand. And Esther went near and touched the top of the scepter. Now, you did not go into the king unless he told you to. Never, nobody was allowed, even the queen could not go into the king's presence without his permission. So, and I want to see, that's the thing, I want to go over some more of this stuff because it's so good. So the queen goes in and she talks to the king, And the king said to her, "What do you wish, Queen Esther? What is your request? It shall be given to you up to half the kingdom." He'll give her half the kingdom. Do you think he was going to give Vashti half the kingdom? No, he was. She was not pleasing. Okay, so Esther answered, "If it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come today to a banquet that I have prepared for him." So she has a plan. She is bringing Haman and the king in together. Now, why would she bring Haman in? He's a terrible man. We're going to find out. Then the king said, "Bring Haman quickly, that he may do as Esther has said." So the king and Haman went to the banquet that Esther had prepared. At the banquet of wine, the king said to Esther, "What is your petition? It shall be granted. What is your request? Up to half the kingdom. It shall be done." Then Esther answered and said, "My petition and request is this: if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, then let the king and Haman come to a banquet which I will prepare for them, and tomorrow I will do as the king has said." So she has a banquet, she invites them in, and then she says, "If it pleases you, come back tomorrow. I have another party for you." So now Haman is going against Mordecai. So Haman went out that day joyful and glad of heart. He didn't know he was just sitting with a Jewish lady. He was sitting with a Jewess. He did not know this. I don't know why, but he did not know this. Maybe it was all the preparation that they had done to make her look more like the makeup and stuff maybe they used. I don't know. I doubt it. But anyway, she didn't look like, I guess, the other Jewish people did, which I don't think Jewish people actually have a certain look. But some people say they do. I can't tell the difference. I mean, I know that might sound horrible to some people, but people are just people to me. I don't care. I mean, you know. I hope that doesn't offend. Let's see. So it says on down. So Haman went out that day his joyful heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, and that he did not stand or tremble before him, he was filled with indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, having restrained himself and went home, he sent and called for his friends and his wife Zeresh. Then Haman told them of his great riches, the multitude of his children, everything in which the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the officials and servants of the king. Moreover, Haman said, "Besides, Queen Esther invited no one but me to come in with the king to a banquet that she's prepared, and tomorrow I'm again invited by her along with the king. Yet all this avails me nothing so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate." So he didn't care about what the queen had done. He didn't care that he was invited to the king's banquet. All he cared about was Mordecai. He had so much hate in him that he could not see anything else. Hold on just a second. You ever talk so much and get so excited that you get a tickle in your throat and there's a cough coming and you know it? I had to take a sip of coffee too. Anyway, well, I could have done that on camera, but I didn't want to cough on camera. So yeah, it's a thing. It's for me anyway. And it's only like when I get super excited about something, and this kind of thing super excites me. Okay, anyway, so Haman was so blinded by his hate, by his bitterness, by his horrible meanness, that he couldn't see anything good. He couldn't see his children. He couldn't see his riches. He couldn't see his wife. He couldn't see the good things, him being promoted. He couldn't see any of that. All he could be was mean and hateful and he could just see nothing but death. That's what he worshiped, was death. And so then his wife Zeresh and all the friends said to him, "Let the gallows be made 50 cubits high, and in the morning suggest the king that Mordecai be hanged on it. Then go merrily with the king to the banquet." So she says, "Go get Mordecai killed. Just go get him killed. It'll be all right. Then you can be happy." Is that what happens to us? We decide, oh, well, if I just have this, I'll be happy. Oh, if I just go do this, I'll be happy. That's not how it works. This guy was so filled with hate that nothing would work. Nothing. So, anyway, they go on, and the king ends up honoring Mordecai instead of hanging him. That night the king could not sleep, so one of the commanded to bring the book of the records of the Chronicles, and there they were read before the king, and it was found written that Mordecai had told Bigthana and Teresh. So on the very night that this all happened, the king decides, oh, I can't sleep tonight. I need something boring to read. Bring me the Chronicles. I need something boring. But instead of being boring, the king sees that Mordecai saved his life. So it goes on to, let's see. Then the king said, what honor and dignity has bestowed on Mordecai for this? What has been given to Mordecai for this? What love have I shown him for saving my life, for keeping the bad from me? And the king's servants who attended him said, nothing has been done for him. Nothing. So maybe I got it wrong before. I think I got ahead of myself. See, that's why you should read the whole thing at one time. So the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the king's palace to suggest that the king hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. This is a God thing. God had that man sit up and read this so that Mordecai would be held above Haman. That's my thought. I don't know if it's true or not. The king's servant said to him, Haman is there, standing in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king asked, what shall be done for the man who the king delights to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, whom would the king delight to honor more than me? Haman was like, why would the king want to honor anybody else? I am the best. I am, he's full of ego and conceited. He thinks he's the one. So, of course, he's going to talk about something great. So, here we go. So, let's see. And Haman answered, for the man whom the king delights it to honor, let a royal robe be brought which the king has worn, and a horse on which the king has ridden, which has a royal crest placed on his head. Then let this robe and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that he may array the man whom the king delights to honor. Then parade him on horseback through the city square, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. So he wants to set him up on a high horse, literally, with a robe, and he wants to be paraded around and shown around and say, hey, look at me, I'm the one the king delights in because I am wonderful. That is what Haman thinks is going to happen to him. Then the king said to Haman, hurry, take the robe and the horse as you have suggested, and do so for Mordecai, the Jew who sits within the city's king's gate. Leave nothing undone of all that you have spoken. Oh boy, I wonder what Haman's face looked like. So Haman took the robe and the horse, arrayed Mordecai, and led him on horseback through the city square, and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. Afterward Mordecai went back to the king's gate, but Haman hurried to his house mourning. Now he was upset, and his head covered. Then Haman told his wife Zeresh and all the friends everything that had happened to him. His wise men and his wife Zeresh said to him, if Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is of Jewish descent, you will not prevail against him, but surely fall before him. While they were still talking with him, the king's eunuchs came and hastened to bring Haman to the banquet which Esther had prepared. So, I want to go on, but I think we should do a few chapters each time. But God has placed Mordecai and Esther in a special place. Every single thing that has happened so far has been happening because God planned it that way. He didn't decide it on a whim. He knew what was happening. He knows there's evil in this world. He knows what he's doing and where he needs to place us. So that is the first 6 chapters. Now I have not really gone over it completely. I would like to go over it more thoroughly and maybe go to chapter 8 or something next week, or maybe chapter 7. I don't know, but like really dig into it. Probably not chapter 1 because we already read that today, but really I could sit here and talk about Esther because she is so wonderful with what she did, and they did not do anything that was like a swindle or, you know, that was, you know, what they say, that was a trick. They didn't cheat anyone. They didn't lie. They weren't Haman. They were not doing anything wrong. They were just a simple people who some people hated. And I feel like God put Esther in her place. He made her beautiful. He made the king see her in a different way than any of the other girls. Not that there was anything wrong with the other girls, but God needed her there. He placed her there for such a time as this. And I know I might be leaving this with like a bad stopping point. I don't know. But I really want to do justice to the other part. I want to go back. And we may not read everything, but I want to go back. Excuse me. I want to go back and read a little bit more. And I don't know. For some reason, I just want to read this whole entire book with you guys. And like really read it. And go through chapter by chapter. And I don't know why I want to, but it just feels like what I want to do. So, I hope this is okay. If you haven't read the book of Esther, read it. It's only 10 chapters. You can read 2 chapters a day and be done in a week, in 5 days. And I think that it's just good. And what I might do is for the next 5 days, read 2 chapters and record each part. And each day, you know, read 2 chapters. That way, and put it all in one video for the next Bible study. That way, it will be more of what I wanted it to be. Because I don't know why I thought I could do this in this short a time. I don't know. The Bible excites me. I love it. It gives me hope that this mean world has always been mean. Now, that's crazy sounding, I know. But it's not that it gives me hope that the mean world's always been mean, but it gives me hope that good things will happen as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And there are things that happen in here that I didn't bring out that I think we need to bring out. So that might be what I do. So if you see the next Bible study video and I'm wearing different clothes every day, that's what I did. Haven't decided yet. I'll decide. But for this one, that's all I have. I mean, we can learn so much from that. And I feel weird with not finishing it. But y'all, it's just, Queen Esther did so much. She was such a good person. And I also just feel like she was a simple girl who lost her family or lost her parents. She was an orphan, y'all. And she lost her parents, and she was brought into something huge that saved the people. And I'm going to tell you, she saved the people. You already know that if you read it. If you don't know it, you know now. So there's the end of the story. She saves the people. But it's how she does it. She's not deceiving, and she's not hateful. She's not Haman. Let's strive to be more like Esther. A loving, beautiful soul who is helping and saving and not destroying. So I guess that's all I have for today. I hope you guys did enjoy this. I hope it wasn't too weird. I feel like it was really weird. And I hope I see you guys next time. And as I said, I will be recording another video today so I can start doing the Bible studies at one time and then a video at another time. So that's how I'm going to do it. So you'll see me in the same clothes, most likely. I don't know. I'm thinking about changing this shirt. We shall see. Got a lot happening. So I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you would like to, leave me a comment down below. Let me know how you're doing, because I really do want to know. If you have a prayer request, you can, can't speak English. If you have a prayer request, you can leave that down below as well. But if you don't want to put a prayer request in public, even though you don't have to tell me what you want me to pray about, you can send me an email at mamacatshomestead@gmail.com. The email is not just for prayer request, it's for like if you want to send a recipe or just a hello or whatever, that's fine too. I always love getting new recipes, and once we get settled, I do want to try some of these that some of you have sent me over the time. I want to get back in my kitchen the way I was in my new kitchen, I guess. But if you want to watch it's one of those days. If you want to watch planner videos, you can check out my other channel at Mama Cat's Home Plans. It's linked down below as well. My email's down there too. So I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Maybe I'll talk better in the next video. And remember, don't take any wooden nickels, and be sweet.